If you've been thinking that you want to start your own podcast, consider this your sign and your permission slip. I'm Sarah Heater, your host of Big Brave Business, and I'm also the founder and CEO of PodFox Media. We're a podcast production and strategic consultation company, and we've helped launch almost 100 shows and consulted on hundreds more. In 2024 and beyond, there are so many choices out there for podcast editors or managers or even production teams. But the difference when you work with PodFox Media is that you get access to not just our strategic support, and believe me, we are some of the best in the business, but also our core values. And that's something that I know if you've been listening to Big Brave Business for a while, you are well familiar with. If you know you want to work with a team that has your back and is actively working to change the world through revolutionary podcasting, working with thought leaders in a ton of different industries whose voices might be underrepresented in their communities or their industries or in podcasting, because let's be honest, it's a middle-aged white dude's game. That sounds like the kind of team and the kind of environment you want to be part of and you want to have behind you to get your podcast off the ground. We will help you every step of the way. Schedule your 100% free 90-minute launch strategy session with me or someone from my team at launchmyshow.com. That'll also be linked in the show notes, but it's launchmyshow.com. Welcome back to Big Brave Business. I'm your host, Sarah K. Heater. Big Brave Business is a podcast where we challenge the status quo of traditional business practices. So if you're ready to challenge norms, rewrite the rules, and redefine what it means to lead with courage and integrity, then grab a notebook and let's dive in. Welcome back to Big Brave Business. My guest today is another Sarah, and if you know me, I have a soft spot for other Sarahs, especially when they spell it correctly, which is with an H, by the way. But anyway, my friend and longtime client on the podcast today is Sarah Williams of Launch Your Box. You may know her because she's a best-selling author, and she has a booming subscription box business, two booming subscription box businesses of her own, and she coaches people how to start and grow their subscription boxes as well. And she has a top 1% podcast in the world, which I am thrilled to be the producer and strategic consultant on. So welcome to the podcast, Sarah.
I love that it's the Sarah show today. So
Yeah.
Sarah with an H show. We're just going to put that out there like that.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this and you are also named Sarah, you can sit with us. So let's start a whole club of Sarahs. But I'm so excited to chat with you because, first of all, we always have such good conversations. Also, I look up to you so much in business, and I really have since we met, which is actually really funny to look back on because how far you have come since we met 3 years ago. And I mean, me too, which it's just been so cool I still look up to you because you're just that many steps ahead of me. And yet we've both been able to watch each other's growth. So that's been really fun. But anybody who's running like multiple 7-figure businesses is someone whose brain I'm just like, tell me all the things. Like, I want to hear everything.
I don't know if you want to hear everything that's going on in my brain.
No, I totally do. And actually, I think it's important. I think that's one of the reasons why this podcast is something that's so dear to me and important to me, is because I feel like a lot of the discourse just on social media and things like that about running 7-figure businesses is just the dream of you're living high and easy and you're driving luxury cars and staying in luxury penthouse hotels. And this is just like the glamorous life. And what I love about, first of all, we're friends, so I get a little more of the real talk, but also you're so relatable as just a normal person. You got kids, you're going to basketball games and football games and taking them to college and wearing your own t-shirts around town, and you're just like a normal person who also runs multiple 7-figure businesses. That's
I'm just gonna, because we're friends, I'm just gonna tell you, My boyfriend and I were watching TV the other night, and I am a sucker for like really terrible reality shows. I
Mm.
watch them all, like all of them. And these people, they just wear the most ridiculous, like couture, dripping in everything. I love a good Gucci belt and a good designer purse, but I'm not dripping in all of that. And I looked at him, I said, I wonder what their net worth is. And so I went onto Google and I started to look, and I was like, my net worth is worth more than all of them. I'm like, this is so crazy because I am a normal person. Like right now, I'm wearing like shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm just like, I'm a normal person, and I live in a small town, and I've got two teenagers, and I think that the myth is that when you hit $1 million in business, like you're a millionaire. You're not really a millionaire, right? You have to be really smart about your money, and you have to really spend it wisely because you won't be a millionaire very long, and you won't have money in the bank very long if you start to be walking outside with your luxury vehicles, your private jet, your all the things that you see. It's
Yeah.
not reality. It's all
Yeah.
fake. It's all for social media. It's not true. I live a very great life, and I'm so blessed with the things that I get to do. I get to travel anywhere I want to. I can virtually buy anything that I want to, but I don't, because I want longevity with my business. I want longevity with my wealth. I want to be able to retire someday and have things paid for. I don't want to keep living the lifestyle of everything the payments due on everything. And so that was something that I really focused on as I was making a lot of money. I have my home's paid for, my cars are paid for. Like I don't have bills, and I love that life because there's not all the pressure on me that I have to keep outdoing myself all the time. And so that's where I get to relax and just be me. And I am the soccer mom, and I am the basketball mom, and my daughter plays the drums in the band. I get to go to those things and just be a normal person, but I don't have the stress of the everyday person because of the wealth that my businesses have made for me and the way that I have spent it.
Yeah. I'm curious about, on that note, how do you balance, okay, I deserve this. I worked hard for this. This is something that maybe I've always wanted or needed, and so I get to do this for myself now, but also I don't want to overdo it, because you've shared some things candidly about your story, especially you are a big Stu McLaren follower and student and alumna who you've shared a lot of things really through his platform that I've seen with your backstory of where you were when you got started, especially knowing like you felt the pain that I think probably a lot of people listening feel, where it's like the kind of energy, and not that this is exactly you, but I want to just relate to the person listening, that kind of energy of like, rent is due. I'm trying to figure this out. I need to make sure, not just for world saving purposes, but for electricity bill, like all the lights are turned off, and I'm keeping my AC at a reasonable temperature, and I am trying not to wash my clothes when it's like the hottest part of the day. And these like kind of minute details that just could save a couple of dollars because it's tight and it's hard, and one big setback like a flat tire or a medical situation or whatever is not just painful, but it is a like dire financial emergency. And how do you go from being in that phase to I could buy anything I want, but
Mhm.
I don't? And how do you like balance that?
I think it's a lot about, I think, the way you were raised a lot of times, or the way you grew up. My parents are definitely middle class, blue collar workers. My mom was a nurse and my dad worked in the oil field. So it was like we had money to do what we wanted to do, but we also had hand-me-downs, and we took lunches to school, and we did all of those things to save money so that we could go on a vacation. And I never flew until I was an adult. Like we drove across the country if we were going on vacation. And so I think I learned a lot of the frugalness from my parents. And it's weird because when you get to this stage in your business and you actually are starting to make real money, and you're not just, okay, I made a couple grand, I have a couple grand worth of bills that have to be paid. So when you actually start making more money than your bills are, there becomes this level of unsureness. Like, and that's what I found. Like, when I was growing, my businesses were growing rapidly. And for me, I always had this weird anxiety that the bubble was going to burst. And I didn't always say, I didn't want to be like MC Hammer, like this one hit wonder that was broke. Like, he's broke, right? You don't want to be these flashy people that spend all their money thinking it's never going to end, and then you're broke. And so that was always really something that was important to me. Like, I've lived paycheck to paycheck. I have put food back when I got to the grocery checkout store because I couldn't afford it all. I have had those things. And I have been in a lot of debt in my younger years. And I just didn't want to live that way because money stress is probably the biggest stress you have in your life. And it comes in waves. Sometimes you do great with money and you're comfortable. And sometimes you're barely getting by with your paycheck and your paycheck's gone 2 days after you've received it. And I have lived in both of those scenarios. So for me, it was like, I don't want to ever be in that situation again. And now I'm at the point that I know my income streams are solid and I don't worry about the bubble bursting. If the bubble ever bursts, I know too much now. Like, I will go build another business. I know too much. But for me, I still have that kind of imposter syndrome about having money. Most recently, I'll give you an example, Sarah. I didn't need to, but I wanted to buy a new car. I've had my previous car for about 5 years. It's lived a good life, but it was starting to make weird noises. And I'm not about being broken down on the highway. And I'm not a person that goes and buys the next best thing. I had my eye on a beautiful little Mercedes SUV. And so I went to drive them, and they're also the Mercedes dealership was also the BMW dealership. And so I drove both. And I remember sitting there talking with my boyfriend, and he's saying, "Which one do you like better?" And I said, "I like them both, but I don't think I want to drive the Mercedes because who will people think I am? Who am I to be driving around in this luxury vehicle? I don't want people to get that impression of me. So I think I'm more of the BMW girl." And about the BMW, and I love the BMW. It's beautiful. It's like got all the bells and whistles. But it's more me. I'm more comfortable in it because I don't want anyone to ever perceive, and I don't perceive people that drive Mercedes that they're better than anybody else. But for me, it was like I don't ever want people to think that I think I'm better than anybody else because I have something or I have these successful businesses or this. And it comes down to my employees. It comes down to my family. It comes down to my friends. It comes down to just everyday people that I drive by. Like, I live in a small town. I don't need to be driving a Mercedes Benz around because I think I'm better than anybody else. And that may never, I don't, if anyone drives a Mercedes listening, please don't hear me say that I think you're better than anybody else. But that was the imposter syndrome that I was telling myself that I didn't need that vehicle because of the way it was going to make me feel.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to feel that way.
It's funny because, and I think you and I have talked about this before, one of the most interesting things about my line of work is that people who are trying to get their businesses started and they're upside down in revenue, and people who are making multiple seven figures, the imposter syndrome that they come to me with about like podcasting, using their voice, putting themselves out there, being vulnerable, trying to build an audience, trying to connect with people, especially in a real and authentic way, like you can do with podcasting. And certainly not everybody who has a podcast is making those deep connections, but that's anybody I'm working with. That's really like the goal. That's the hope. Like, I want that, but also I'm terrified. And the imposter syndrome sounds exactly the same at $0 or negative revenue as it does at multiple seven figures. And I find this so fascinating because the people who I work with who are at zero or very much lower than they'd like it to be they have a lot of times this kind of understanding or belief that if they were making multiple seven figures, that part would go away. So I'm really curious, as you still experience those moments, but you've got a lot of experience now with those moments, how do you self-coach through that imposter syndrome?
I think it's really the people you surround yourself with, because a lot of us, as we become successful, we may have family that have that attitude of it must be nice. No, I've worked my butt off for this, right? I've worked my tail off for
And also,
this.
yes, it is nice.
Yes. But it's like this, it's not like this was just handed to us. Like we're working towards something. And what people don't see is that we've put a lot of years. There were a lot of days that I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning and worked till 11 o'clock at night and was a mother of toddlers in between. Like people don't understand that. And so there is this feeling of people don't know the work I've put in to get here. And when you have someone like that in your life, like your family, or it could be close friends, I call them regular people because entrepreneurs are very different than regular people. So it's really hard for them to understand what you've done to build this business or how hard you work versus someone that is not an entrepreneur that may just go clock in and clock out and have no worries at 5 when they clock out. We're constantly thinking about our business. And I think that you have to surround yourself with people that are like-minded like you. So that could be other entrepreneurs that are maybe people that are supportive of your growth because not everyone's happy for you when you're successful. And so if you can do that, kind of breaks the cycle of the imposter syndrome. When I purchase something for myself or I spend my money on a vacation or something like that, and someone's always in my ear being negative about it, that's going to affect me and that's going to make me feel less than. But if I have people that are like, I'm so happy for you, I'm so proud of you, that is encouraging. That kind of lifts you out of that space. So you definitely need to surround yourself with people that are like-minded and want to see you win because not everybody wants to see you win.
I want to tap into this idea of community because I know you have this special group of friends
Mhm.
that you met during your entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah.
And I can say that witnessing things like that, and I want to hear you like describe about this group so that people can hear. But for me, this is something that I crave so hard. And it's actually a huge part of why Big Brave Business even got started because Amanda and I both really craved this idea of like business besties and hearing people talk about business besties. And we're like, man, what's that like? Because I'm doing this alone in my, home office or in the corner of my bedroom, or for her, she was sitting at her dining room table until recently. And this feeling of I'm doing this alone, like my dog or my cat is my like closest biz bestie. And there are people in my life who love me and support me and want to encourage me, but they don't really get like
Yeah.
running a business. And when we met each other, we were like, oh, thank God. Like now we have each other. And I have found that it's hard. And I've joined some networking groups and just tried to start building some relationships, but a true biz bestie who you can just trust and bounce stuff off of. Tell me about your group of business besties and how you met and how you keep in touch and what that's like.
So I'm going to say that it takes commitment and work for you to have a friendship like this. You get out of it what you put into it. So you have to be committed to being a part of this friendship. But there was a group of us that went through a course. So we all purchased this course back in 2018, and it was a high price course. And it was something that was really out of all of our comfort zones because we were baby businesses. We were just on our entrepreneurship journey and we were trying to grow. And we were all in a similar space at that time. And so we're in this Facebook group learning and we're starting to connect. And there was one person that was like the connector of all of us. But this group started out to be about 30 people. And so over time, it became this group of 8. So over about a year, the 30 became this group of 8 because we were having conversations in a Facebook group together. And the people that weren't participating didn't need to be there. They didn't need to be in this group. If they weren't involved in these conversations, we're putting our business out there and we needed to feel comfortable with each other. So we narrowed down to 8 at the end of that year. And I'm going to tell you, these women, they're all 6 and 7 figure business owners. And this was now 6 years in, and we talk every single day. We know each other's families. We spend time with each other's families. We go on vacation together twice a year. So we usually go on vacation in February and August. We're getting ready to go on vacation together. But it's more than just vacation, it's our girls' trip, but we rest together. We work together, we strategize together, we help each other in our businesses, and we are so deeply connected, family and business wise, that we know what everybody has on their plate. Like we know, and so we're able to help each other in our businesses. And we're all in that same season of life where We want our businesses to grow, but we also want to be working less. We all have our kids kind of age range. We range from like high 30s to low 60s in our age range in our group. So we have kids on different, Brandy has little kids, and then like Cindy has grown kids, and she just had her first grandbaby. So we have this age of kids and everything in between. So we're moms and we're friends, but we're these amazing business owners. And that's what connects us to each other. And we get to talk about our highs and celebrate each other. And we also get to talk about our lows and talk each other off the ledge, right? And so it's every day we have conversations, and they can range from social media conversations to launch conversations to, hey, where'd you get that cute outfit I saw on social media? That's our conversations that we get to have every single day. But at the end of the day, we're there for each other no matter what. We've seen each other go through a lot of life-changing things. We've seen each other and really just lift each other up. We've lost loved ones, we've gotten divorces, we've gone through things with our kids. So we really are a support system that's whole. It's not just about business. And I think that's where connections are made, but they're not solid like what we have because we're 100% about the whole person, not just the business person. And so we get each other in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I really admire the commitment that your group has to sticking together.
Mhm.
So one of the things that you mentioned there is when you need to be talked off a ledge. That's something
Yeah.
that you share. So I'm curious if you can share a time that you wanted to quit or you thought you might quit or you just thought things weren't going to work out. Like what did that look like and what did you do?
Oh, wow. I feel like I haven't felt that way in a long time. I think in the beginning you feel like that every other day. What am I doing? And then tomorrow's like, yes, I'm amazing. And then the next day is I should just chalk it all up and go get a job. I feel like that's how things are. At this point, I think that I'll have maybe an issue with an employee, right? So I'm like, I might have to let someone go. I'm a sensitive soul. I don't like to do that. Talk me through this. Here's the situation. Help me with how I should handle this. And then everyone's jumping in. Or maybe a launch is bombing and I'm like, my launch sucks. This is terrible. I don't know what else to do. And everybody jumps in. Have you done this? Have you done this? I can help with this. You want to go live with me on my page? Like we can do this, like that, those kinds of things. So I think that I'm not at the point where I'm throwing the towel in on anything, but I think there's times where we have bad days and we just need someone that gets it and can help you talk yourself off the ledge because we all live in different areas of the country. So it's not like I can go have margaritas and chips and queso with them and work out my problems, but it's, hey, I'm struggling today. I'm struggling to show up. I'm struggling to get my things done. I'm struggling mentally, emotionally. I can someone jump on a call with me and help me through my plan for the week or whatever it is. And that's how we support each other.
Yeah. Yeah. What is one of the biggest and bravest things you've done in your business? And it can be ever or recently, because I know at this point you've got a lot.
I feel like everything I do is big and brave, Sarah. I think that we have to be open. And I think that's the biggest, bravest thing you can do is just be open. And when I say be open, it's be open to opportunities, not being afraid to step on that stage, not being afraid to make the move that you've been thinking about moving. And when the opportunity arises, like that's the big brave moment. Let's talk about my book deal. I was speaking at a charity event and I was just there to talk about the trends for e-commerce for the next year. And I went, I did my part, and I was nervous because that was a big audience. I was already nervous about that. And then also speaking was the CEO of Hay House Publishing. And that turned into a conversation at lunch, that turned into another conversation at dinner, that turned into a book deal before I left. And had I not been open to that, I wouldn't be a best-selling author right now. I
Yeah.
never had writing a book on my radar. I never thought that was something that I would do, nor did I want to do. But when the opportunity was presented to me, it was I needed to be open to that. What could that do for my business? What could that do to show that I am an expert in my field? What could that do for someone reading my book would be connected to me in that way? It is an eternal opt-in to my business at this point. So we have to be open to, did I know how to write a book? No. Am I a writer? No. Did I even know how this was going to look? No. But I had to be open to this opportunity. I had to be open to going to that charity event, first of all, where I knew nobody. And I was nervous and I didn't know if I was going to stumble my words and make a fool of myself. I had went out there by myself to be with a group of people that I didn't know that were bigger names than me. But I had to be open to putting myself in that situation. I had to be open to having a conversation with this high level CEO sitting next to me at lunch. And I had to be open to thinking about the possibility and what this book could do for me and my business. And if I wasn't open to any of those things, I wouldn't be an author right now. It starts with just being open with one thing, thinking about I had to be open to being a business coach. I started my subscription box. I just wanted to make the cute things and sell the cute things. And that was how I started my business. But then when I started to be really successful and I started to grow really quickly, people were watching and they were asking, how are you doing this? How are you sourcing? How are you doing packaging? How is fulfillment? How do I make this happen? And I had to be open to listening to someone say, you should teach this, you should teach this. I'm like, no, I just want to make the cute things. I just want to be Sarah. I just want to make the cute things. And I'm not a coach. I'm not a teacher. I'm not those things. But I was open to figuring that out. And that's what landed me another 7-figure a year membership, was just taking what I had learned and putting it in a way, in a form that I could teach others. But if I wasn't open to ever putting myself out there like that, I wouldn't have that business either. And that would have not brought me a book deal and a
Yeah.
podcast and all
Yeah.
the amazing things
Yeah.
that I've gotten to do. And so I think the biggest thing that we have to do to be big and brave is to be open to the possibilities and to say, I don't have it all figured out. I don't know the direction that this road is going to go, but I'm in this car and I'm buckled up and I'm ready for whatever comes my way. Right.
Yeah, I feel like that's really where my headspace is right now. I have just some things that are really shifting and changing in my own business, and you and I were lucky enough to get to have dinner in person just the week before we're recording this, which is so funny. This is a lot of Sarah time and I am here for it. But I was sharing this with you that coming up on like the 5-year anniversary of my business, which by the time this airs will have happened, I'm really like looking at what's the next 5 years look like. And at the same time, it's looking back at how far I've come, starting at nothing 5 years ago and where I am today. And it's wild. So it's looking at like the structure of my business and being really open to delegating, but also simplifying, cutting out some
You
of the
have
excess
to.
busy work and things like that, a big season of that. And then also, I just shared with you literally as soon as we finished recording this, I'm packing up the car and driving to Vegas for an event called Super Zoo, which is one of the largest pet industry trade shows, which is random. But I actually produce a couple of pet industry podcasts and they do really well. And so I have a handful of clients who are going to be at this trade show that I'm going to go meet in person and get to engage with and see them do their thing. But I also will meet a whole lot of other people in the pet industry who either have podcasts but could benefit from our support, or they don't even know that they could be podcasters or how a podcast could work for their business yet. And so I don't have a booth and I'm not speaking. I'm just going to meet people and see what happens. And I'm just like, we'll see. We'll just see how it goes. And related, so obviously that will have already happened when this airs because literally I'm going there today. And then the next big thing that I have coming up is next month, where I reached out to someone who is holding an event that's close to me. It will have already happened by the time this airs, so I'm not going to bother going into the details of it here, but I reached out because she had a note on there that they were open to event sponsors, and I felt like it looked really similar in like brand messaging to what Podfox stands for and our core values and what we're trying to accomplish. So I reached out just to inquire, what are the price points on your sponsorships? What kind of options does that include? what's included. And I was looking to see if there's like a vendor booth opportunity, which there is, but there's also a bunch of other levels. And when I reached out, we had a quick call to chat about the different opportunities to make sure it was a good match on her side. And as we were chatting, she said, okay, but I want you to come speak though. And I didn't even know that she was still looking for speakers. So now I'm speaking at this event, and
I
it just
love
happened
that.
just
I
because
love that.
we connected and I reached out. And so I feel like it's exactly what you're talking about, where it's, I'm just open. I'm just open to see what happens in the opportunities. I love talking. I love public speaking. As soon as I knew that there were jobs where people like they talk for a living on stages, I was like, sign me up. I was a theater kid. I thought that was the way. Then I first heard about like motivational speakers as a career, and I was like, that's it. That's for me. That's what I want to do. Obviously, that has shifted, but podcasting makes total sense, right? It really
Right.
fits into all of that.
And we
Um,
have to really give a shout out to Eric here for the podcasting, right?
Yeah, he'll love this. So, my partner, Eric, loves to make sure everyone knows. And he did tell Sarah this story at dinner last week that he introduced me to the concept of podcasting. When we
Mhm.
first got together, he asked me what podcasts I listened to, and I didn't know what a podcast was. So, he introduced me to podcasts, and then I started a business, and here we are. So,
You are.
yes, he definitely likes to make sure everybody knows. So now if you didn't already know that in the big brave business world, now it is canon. Everyone knows. This is thanks to Eric.
Yes.
So yes. Yeah. So I think just it's funny how that happens. And I feel like what you were describing feels relatable to what I was saying too, with it's almost like a snowball rolling and it just gets bigger and bigger as you're open to opportunities and you don't know what's going to come out of that. You don't know what's going to come out of those
You
things
don't.
that come out of those things that come out of those things that come
And you
out of
can't
those
control
things.
that. You have to let go of control. Like you have to say, this is out of my control and I am open to whatever happens here.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have to release this thing that you have to control everything because as entrepreneurs, we try to control everything in the beginning. And as we grow, we have to release that. And so you can't control every situation. You just have to be open and in the moment and just take whatever comes your way.
Yeah, I'm trying to really channel that. And this is good inspiration going into an event that I'm very intimidated to go to. It's going to be a lot of people, and it's an industry that I do know actually a lot about because my first podcast that I took on, Pet Business podcast that I took on, shout out to Candace from Pet Boss Nation and the Pet Boss podcast. She is also friends with Sarah and
Mhm.
both of us, but with Sarah Williams. And that's how we met. But she and I started working together more than 2 years ago as well. And I've been listening to her podcast every episode for that time. So I do actually know quite a bit about the pet
Yeah.
industry. And now I have a couple of shows, but it doesn't feel like my industry, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go walk in as a visitor to this space that, like, thank you for having me. I am happy to meet you, but I'm just trying to go into it excited and ready to learn what I can learn and meet who I can meet, and we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. It's going to be great for you.
Yeah, I think it's a good step. And I think that these kind of things are something I'd like to do more of. I know you're super involved with Sub Summit, which is like essentially Super Zoo, but for the subscription world. And I feel like going to those kind of things is more interesting to me than focusing specifically on like podcast industry
Right.
events because
Right.
everybody there is already talking podcasting. And these other events, it's like I get to learn about all kinds of different industries and meet all kinds of different people and bring podcasting there. So that's, I think, a big opportunity I'm excited for.
Yeah. Yeah. You should be.
Yeah, thanks. So I guess I have two more questions I really want to
Okay.
ask you.
Okay.
One is, what's something big and brave you still want to do in your business?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know that I've thought about it. I don't know that I just lay in bed and dream about someday I'm going to do this. I'm just so in the moment with where I'm at now. I don't know, but I'm open to whatever that is. I don't have a bucket list of I want to do this. I want to serve at the highest level and I want that to be my legacy. And I in whatever way that comes for me. I want to impact as many people as I can in my time in this world. And I think that I've found how I can, and I just want to do that at the largest scale that I can.
That's fun. I feel like I could push you on that, but it's all right. I'll let it be. You could be in the
Okay.
Okay, so on that note, my favorite way to end all of the Big Brave business conversations is with the same question, and this can be work related, but it does not have to be. What
Okay.
is something that is making you happy right now?
So much is making life is making me happy
That's
right
so
now.
good.
I My kids are just happy and healthy and thriving. My son's about to go to college for the first time, and we leave in 3 days to move him out of my house.
Oh,
I feel like
that's
it's so permanent, but you're right. Like I'm
it.
gonna see you at Thanksgiving. That's fun, and I'm so excited about his future and and the possibilities. And he has this goal of being an entrepreneur as well in his field of industry. And so I'm excited about that. My daughter's just starting a brand new high school that just got built. And so that's exciting. I'm in this wonderful new relationship. And it's weird because I was married for a very long time. I was married for 24 years. And as rough as that ending was, this new beginning feels like a whole new life for me. I'm just happy. I'm healthy. Business is good. I just bought another business and I'm having fun with it. It's a challenge, but I'm learning a new industry, but I'm applying everything I know about business to it. And so it makes me geek out about how I can make this business thrive as well. And so I just feel like life is good. My parents are good. My siblings are good. I just feel like life is really good right now. It's making me happy. And I'm not
Love that.
working as much as I used to. And that has taken a long time for me.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think I'm not working as much is because I have other things to do than work. And I didn't
Yeah.
used to. Work was the thing that lit me up all the time and it made me feel appreciated. And so I would just pour myself into work. And that got me to where I'm at today. And I'm really grateful for that. But I do love that I want to go home after work and
Yeah.
enjoy my home and my kids and my life now. And that took a long time to get to that space too.
Just the feeling of I want to go home, home is a place I want to be
Yeah.
is such a beautiful it's such a beautiful blessing and I'm
Yeah.
so glad that is the stage that you're in. But it does I have to ask this too before I share what's making me happy.
Yeah.
Two things. One is I actually originally was like, Sarah, you have to come on because I saw that you bought this franchise and I'm so curious about so many things like buying business, like the experience of buying a business, frankly, the experience of selling a business, which of course you would also have some insight into having bought one. And then just the concept of franchising as a business model. It's not something that fits into what I do, but it is something that I'm interested just to know more about because I'm a business geek, hence the podcast. So I would love to have you back so we can like specifically talk about that and just whatever you're able to share about the things you're doing. Okay, now you've got this existing business that existed before you. Like, now what do you do? And how is that different from building from scratch? That's so interesting. But then I also have to ask, related to your kids and this conversation that you opened this bag of your son has expressed interest in entrepreneurship. What do you feel like the impact is of your kids watching you having built this? Especially you were not an entrepreneur kid yourself. So what do you feel like your kid, like the impact has been for your kids? And what do you hope the impact has been for your kids?
I think the main things that they've really learned is that you can really do whatever it is that you want to do. And if you work hard enough, you can be successful. And I really think the other thing that they've seen is that working for yourself creates this flexibility in your life.
Mhm.
Yeah, we go on vacations and mom has to work a little bit on vacations. And I'm not ashamed of that. As some people are like, you work on vacation? Yes, because when I get back from vacation, I'm not overwhelmed. So when we go on a vacation, I will get up an hour or so earlier before everybody else. I'll sit and drink coffee and I'll get my work done for the day. And that makes me feel good about going on vacation because we go on a lot of vacations now because I can afford to go on a lot of vacations. And I love this laptop lifestyle that I've been able to create for myself. And so I think my kids see this. They see the possibility of living life, working hard, and how you can do all those things at the same time. And it's not one or the other. My daughter doesn't have the entrepreneurial bug yet. She's still 16, so she's still young enough to get that. But I love that my son is already like building a portfolio, creating socials around his business that he wants to create. And he has ideas of how this is going to work for him based on what he's seen me do with my own businesses.
That is so cool. And yeah, that's how I feel. I hope that my kids, I hope that's the big takeaway, the big lesson. If you're listening to this, you can't see what's behind Sarah, but there's a sign behind you that says she designed a life. And I actually don't know what the rest of it says, but
She designed a life she loved.
there you go. Okay.
Mhm.
But designing your life is
Yeah.
a thing that I feel like entrepreneurship has been such a huge blessing for me and being able to do that. I say all the time that when I was working like a quote unquote 9 to 5, it was never 9 to 5, but when I was working a quote unquote 9 to 5, I was doing work I didn't care about with people I didn't like. And the things that mattered the most and the people that mattered the most didn't get the me they deserved. I didn't have a lot left to give. Right.
Yeah.
So that stuff always came last. And now with entrepreneurship, yes, there are times that I work a lot.
A lot.
And there are times that maybe takes me away from things, but I'm able to balance that. And when I can recognize that happening, I can shift priorities as needed so that on Monday nights, the kids are here and they all come home again for Monday dinners, even though they all have their adult lives now, which is nuts. I can't believe they still want to see us once a week, but I'm grateful for it. And shut my laptop. Like, I'm done. I'm done working. When they're here, we're going to have dinner together. And sometimes I'm working up until dinner's ready and then I put my laptop away. But like, I'm focused on them. That's what's important to me
Yep.
in that moment, and everything else can wait. And that is just really refreshing to be in a place where, yeah, like now the things that matter the most and the people who matter the most, that's what my whole life is.
Yeah.
And I'm doing work that I love with people that I adore, like you,
Yeah,
not people I
absolutely. And you
hate.
get to pick and choose that,
Yeah.
right? We get to pick and choose who we want to work with. I have canceled someone's membership recently because they're just awful in my community. And I don't need your $57 bad enough for you to be ruin everyone's day on a regular basis. Goodbye. Thank you. Appreciate you. You're not a good fit. We get to decide that. We don't have to
Yeah.
go work for somebody that tells us what we have to do every single day and how we're going to do it and when we're going to do it. Because whether you have small kids at home right now or teenagers or they're out of the house, small kids, I want to be able to pick my kids up from school. I want to be able to go be the PTA mom at school and take the cupcakes and things. And you can't do that when you're clocking in and out most times. I want to do that when they're teenagers and there's football games that I have to drive 3 hours for, and there's band performances, and there's soccer games and basketball games. I want to be at every one of them. And that's also an environment that I get to create for my employees.
Yeah.
All the women that work for me in my warehouse, they all have kids. And one is at a tennis game right now, and one's with their mom at a doctor's appointment right now. And I want to create that flexible environment for them too. Life doesn't have to be so rigid. And I think that people that have had rigid lives, like they don't know entrepreneur life. And like my mom couldn't imagine being an entrepreneur. She's had the structure of being a nurse and being on the go and being on her feet all every day, 12
Mhm.
hours a day. Like they don't understand what it's like. And it's once you get a taste of that and know that you can do it, you're never going back. Like
Yeah.
I'm
That's
never
That's what I
going
want for
back.
my kids. I was actually thinking that when you said your daughter hasn't been bitten by the entrepreneur bug yet, I was thinking I wanted to ask, have either of them had regular jobs yet?
My daughter works for me. So she's very flexible because it's really hard with her basketball, soccer, and band schedule. So she can't really have a real job, right? So she's out in the warehouse right now pressing shirts. I'm out here.
Aw,
But we work around her schedule. My son has had a regular job. So he's worked at a grocery store for 2 years. And
so that's why he knows.
maybe
Yeah.
that's why. She feels like my daughter probably feels like every job is like this. Yeah, I can't work today. I got practice. Like she has no
Yeah.
idea. I
Yeah.
need to throw her into the real world a little bit before she gets too far in life.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap up, something that's making me happy right now, I am going to cheat and say two things. One is I'm excited about going to Super Zoo and I'm excited for myself. I am. But the thing that I'm most excited about Super Zoo is that I'm taking my stepdaughter with me. My stepdaughter is a groomer. She works right now at the time of recording this for Petco. And actually, she's thriving there. She's making more money at her age than I certainly did by a lot. She bought a house at 21. She has been promoted basically as far as you can go without being a manager. And she's now in her mid 20s, but in her early 20s, getting promoted that far, that's great. Like she's really thriving. But going to Super Zoo is a dream for her. It's something that, like, in the industry, that has been a dream. And working for a big box company as a groomer, there is no reason or opportunity why she would be able to go to Super Zoo if she wasn't coming with me. I think one of the things I'm most excited for, speaking of getting bitten by the entrepreneurial bug, is introducing her to some of these friends and clients I have who will be there, who can speak to what it's like in the industry to build your own opportunity or even to work for something more indie. Because I think her opportunities to do things like Super Zoo and actually come with buying power and actually come with decision making power, and versus I get to go and just see it. I just want her to get to have a picture of what send her a postcard. This is what your future could look like, and no rush. You're in your own time.
You're
right?
just putting her in that environment to
Yes.
see and to soak it in, and then her wheels will start to turn on her
and
own.
Just being able to be the person who gets to give her first opportunity to go to Super Zoo is something that I am just like so thrilled to be able to do. That's one of my favorite things in this family. I have 3 stepkids and obviously my partner. And one of the things that's been so fun to me is coming in and wanting to be a person who they can always look back at their life and see how it got better with me in it. Look at the ways that Sarah brought like joy and opportunity and travel and access to opportunities and experiences. That's what I just love to give. So I'm just so excited about that. And then number 2, on the same vein, is that in preparing to go to Super Zoo, my team member Katie, who's been a guest on this podcast, you've been a guest on her podcast.
Yes.
My team member Katie, she came onto the team last year and we had a plan for what we were going to do with her role. It's evolved quite a lot, but I have to say, I have been so grateful for her support in preparing to go to Super Zoo. There is so much that I've been able to do to support clients and prepare for this event and still have a life and like some semblance of rest that is only possible because of her help. The team is amazing. And when you have the right people around you on your team to support you and to help you pick up the load that is running your business, it's amazing. It's such a good feeling.
It's a game changer because it opens you up to do more.
Yes. And on my team, she is one of the 2 people who is like essentially beta testing or like creating from scratch this account manager role that's new to my team. I've talked a little bit about it on this podcast before. If you've been listening for a while, thank you. And she just closed her first podcast management services.
Yay, Katie!
So we're celebrating that. So I'm very excited for her. I just feel like, speaking of like on the precipice of big things coming and letting the snowball go, like I feel like big things are coming for her too. And for PodFox as a result, because she's in my corner. So happy for that. So that's making me happy. Thank you so much for your time. This has been so much fun. I could literally talk to you for eternity.
All day, but you've got to get to Vegas.
Yes, I have to hit the road. And I definitely would love to have you back on so we can just chat about more things. And if you want to connect with Sarah, because of course you do, all of her information, her book, which you need to check out because she's a best-selling author, you guys. This book is great. I have it. I loved it. I read it immediately, or I started reading it immediately when I took it out of the package. I was so excited and flipped through the whole thing. It's so easy to navigate. It's the illustrations, which you had a buddy on your team helping you out with. They are these custom illustrations throughout the book, which might sound strange. Like, why is there stuff illustrated in a book about starting a subscription box? You have to buy it to find out because it's so beautiful and good and easy to navigate. And the sections and the headers and the like, it's such an easily consumable book and usable. It's wonderful. I love it. I love you. And check out Sarah's podcast too. So all of that is going to be linked in the description. And of course, my information as well. Would love to chat, especially if you're another Sarah, but even if you're not, you can still sit with us.
We will be friends with other Sarahs.
And non-Sarahs alike. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Sarahs, non-Sarahs, Lauren.
Sarahs without the H. Yeah.
Susie,
whatever.
Like, we got you.
We got you. You can sit with us. So come connect with us. And thank you, Sarah. And thank you for listening. And I will see you next week. If you already have a podcast, but you're feeling stuck or frustrated because nobody's really listening, or you just wish more people were listening, or you want to figure out how to start making some money from your podcast, whether that's through sponsored ads or any other form of monetization. By the way, did you know there's other forms of monetization? That is exactly the kind of thing that my team at Podfox Media can help you achieve. You can schedule your strategy session with us today at helpmyshow.com. That's helpmyshow.com. Schedule a session and I'll see you there.